Welcome to Explain America. I'm your host, Kyle Becker. Now, I'm sure you've been following the saga in Washington, D.C. The Democrats have absolutely flipped their lid over President Trump federalizing the D.C. police and calling in the National Guard to protect citizens from the violent crime that has gripped the city. But one of the main actors in this passion play that's been going on in the nation's capital, her name is Pamela Smith, and she's the police chief. Well, she left a head-scratching statement that really explains why the nation's capital is in crisis. But before we get into that, please like, share, and comment Explain America. We appreciate your support for common sense journalism. Now, if you've been following DC politics, you might have found out some interesting information that you didn't know. Like, they have their own attorney general. That's right. We saw an appearance from him on Tuesday. And another thing is, well, the DC police chief appears to be completely out of her depth. Not a surprise, because the mayor, Muriel Bowser, has proven to be out of her depth. So it looks like birds of a feather flock together. Pamela Smith was confronted by a reporter about who's in charge in the chain of command. Well, that would be President Trump through the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, but she apparently has no clue. Check this out.
What the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, speaking to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the process. The president designated Attorney General Bondi as his proxy to request services through me.
Now, what if I told you that Pamela Smith was the chief diversity officer for DC? Would that surprise you? Well, it wouldn't surprise me, because equity is a made-up shtick that a bunch of woke activists made up to get their beds feathered with taxpayer money. It's not a real thing. You should always hire people based on merit. And if you hire people based on merit, then you will be colorblind. Now, that's not to say that, sometimes, you might want to prefer certain candidates who are equally matched in a situation, but these people are not equally matched if you don't know what a chain of command is and you're a police chief. I mean, this is basic policing 101. You have to know what a chain of command is. If you're in the military, you have to know what a chain of command is. And you have to know who the commander-in-chief is. And his name is President Donald Trump. So I understand that there is sometimes some confusion about who is in charge in Washington, D.C., because the chaos, it's become the norm there. And that's why President Trump has had to step in to begin with. Well, you've also heard the cover story lately that the crime in Washington, D.C. is not that bad. Well, we all know that these major cities that are run by Democrats are cooking the books on violent crime to hide their completely inept and corrupt practices, such as no cash bail. This has been an absolute disaster, and President Trump is looking to put an end to that nationwide, and let's hope he can, because nobody remembers electing George Soros as co-president of the United States. And he's been placing prosecutors there through his illicit billions and billions of dollars shoveled into our system, only to see people get injured, beaten, sometimes killed by these corrupt Soros prosecutors and their dereliction of duty. And it's about time that somebody takes charge on our nation's capital, because it looks like it's a completely out of whack. And you can't walk through the states. I mean, we had Harmeet Dillon, who was a U.S. attorney in the Civil Rights Office in the Department of Justice. She was almost mugged last night by a homeless person who came after her, according to her account. That just tells you something. Like, remember Rand Paul got assaulted. How many times have conservatives been accosted in restaurants? I think Sarah Huckabee Sanders, I believe, was accosted in a restaurant. It just goes on, and it's out of control. And it makes America look like a laughingstock. So, what do you think about this? Why is the DC police chief and the mayor of there so out of their depth? It's absolutely astounding that we tolerate this in our nation's capital. We need people who are competent, capable, on the ball, really looking out for us and trying to protect us from violent criminals. And if they can't do it, well, Donald Trump has 30 days at least to try to get their act together for them. So what do you think about that? This has been Kyle Beck with Explain America. Please weigh in with your thoughts. We really appreciate it.